Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending our webinar today, which will cover the QT9 QMS web portal. We apologize for the few minutes delay. It was due to some technical difficulties, but we are extremely excited to present to you all today. This is our very first webinar for the year, and we have upgraded to 14.0 for most of our customers. If you have not upgraded to 14.0 for QMS, please email support@QT9software.com so that our staff members can notify the appropriate individuals to get you scheduled for your upgrade. The web portals that we're going to cover today are directly linked to some of the modules within QT9 QMS. If you have not implemented some of these modules, or if you need refresher trainings on these modules or initial training on these modules, please reach out to your assigned implementation specialist. If you have completed all of your initial implementation, you can always email support@QT9software.com, and they will get you assigned to an individual that can assist you with getting implementation and training started again if needed. Just some housekeeping. The webinar toolbar that's available to all of you all attending the webinar today has an orange arrow that allows you to collapse or expand the toolbar for viewing. We do have qualified staff members available to answer any questions or concerns that you have regarding today's webinar. Again, we're going to be covering the web portals only, so we want to make sure the questions are geared towards the web portals when asking questions to our staff members. All you have to do is enter your question in the text box provided, hit the send button, and one of the staff members will connect with you to get your question answered. If there are any questions that populate after the presentation is over that does not get handled or answered by the staff members, someone from the team will follow up with you. Again, thank you, and we are very excited to present to you guys today. Our webinars are free, just as a reminder, and they are designed to provide our users with features and functions and tips on utilizing QT9 QMS. We do have a wide variety of users in attendance across all sorts of industries, but we do want to make sure we stay on topic with the material that we're planning to cover today, and we also, again, want to make sure all questions are regarding the material covered today, just because we want to respect everybody's time that's attending the webinar. If you do need a personalized one-on-one session, definitely for yourself and or your team or company, definitely feel free to reach out to QT9software.com, our support team, so support@QT9software.com, and then our staff members will get you the information you need to get time scheduled for those one-on-one sessions. All right, to get started and discuss the portals that we'll cover today. One of the portals that we'll cover will be the customer portal. This portal is free with your purchase of the QT9 QMS system. We'll also cover the supplier portal today, which is also free, as well as the employee portal. And then we will cover, the last portal we'll cover will be the document portal. The document portal is an add-on that has to be purchased. If you are interested after today's webinar in purchasing the document portal and you do not have it at this time, you can email support@QT9software.com, or you can reach out to your assigned sales representative. That person will provide you with a quote and answer any questions that you have regarding licenses, regarding the document portal if you're interested. Just a little information about the customer portal. The customer portal allows customers to complete surveys as well as approve any documents assigned, and also they can get involved with your engineering changes or product changes electronically. Supplier Portal allows suppliers to complete surveys as well. Suppliers can get a little more involved because they can also respond to corrective actions and non-conforming products. And you have the ability to create and send over to your suppliers evaluations or scorecards. And they can view all of that information electronically, and they can actually generate hard copies from the supplier portal if needed. The employee portal would be an opportunity for your employees that you're tracking training for to complete assigned trainings electronically. These training records that can be made available to your employees, they can allow them, if you choose to set it up and structure it that way, to review any of your control documents from QT9 QMS. They can take any training tests that have been built out, and the system will automatically score the test. They can also review any external documentation or information that you provide to them, as well as they can link to other applications or other websites that you make available to them through the assigned trainings in the employee portal. The very last portal we'll cover today is the document portal. Again, that is the only portal that requires an additional purchase outside of your QT9 QMS system. And that document portal allows for customers, suppliers, and your users to have the ability to search and access any documents that you make available to them. We always want to make sure you guys know where to go within QT9 QMS to get help. If ever you're being asked by a staff member here at QT9 or a support member here at QT9 what version of QMS you're using, under the help menu within the system, you can go into About QT9, and that will give you the version that you are currently on. Right underneath that menu option is the help file. The really nice thing with 14.0 is the help file is electronic. So you no longer have to download. You can actually click through and review information, and it's all web-based now. You still have the ability to submit information over questions, request training and such through the support request option under the help menu. And we still have the Training Academy available to you. So that Training Academy contains how-to guides. So if you need assistance with any specific feature or function within the system, the Training Academy will allow you to search for what you need, and then you can view that information. And it has step-by-step, and it has images so that you know that you're on the right path when you're utilizing QT9 QMS. And it is also web-based now, too. So both the help file and the Training Academy are web-based. We're going to go ahead and hop over into the system, and we're going to start looking at these portals. The very first portal that we're going to look at will be the customer portal. In order for customers to access the customer portal, they have to be set up in QT9 QMS. And we're going to go into some of the setup pieces here in a moment. First, we're going to go ahead and access the customer portal, and we're going to take a look at what the customer has available to him or her when they are accessing the customer portal. When accessing the customer portal, the customer actually has a home page. So they have all of the breakouts of the information that's available for them to view or access from an electronic standpoint. So one of the very things that's available is the ability to approve any documents assigned to the customer. We'll talk about how you can utilize this feature within the QT9 QMS system in a moment, but it's very simple for the customers. After they access the portal, all they have to do is click on View Documents Approval. Then they have a list of the documents that you have assigned to them to approve. They click on one of those documents, and they get very basic information. So they don't see all of the details that your users that are involved with the document approval process internally will see, but they see the general things. They see the description of the change, And they can also download and view the physical document associated with that electronic record. So when I click on download here, the document will be available for me to open. And when the customer opens that document, they can go ahead and review any information provided to them. Then they have the option to approve or reject that document request. When they click on the reject request option, the system will prompt them to enter rejection notes. That is a requirement. They'll enter the notes here. Once they enter the notes, they'll click on reject request, and then the main system will take that information, capture it, so that the individuals involved with that document request internally will have an opportunity to review the information provided from the customer from a rejection standpoint. And the customer also has the ability to approve the request. If all is well and there's no reason for them to give feedback that requires this document not to be approved. So when I click on the approve request, the rejection notes, the notes for approval are optional. So the customers don't have to enter notes here, but the moment that they click on approve request, the system will capture the approval, and it automatically allows you guys to continue moving forward internally with publishing the document if your internal approvals have been completed, as well as your customer approval, if that is the requirement for that particular document. We're going to go back to the homepage for the customer portal. Then we're going to take a look at the ECR approvals, so the engineering change request approvals that customers can get involved in. When we go to view the approvals for ECRs, all of the ECRs that you have assigned to your customer will be available. They'll access the engineering change request record, and again, they're not seeing everything that you have populated and processed internally. They're only seeing the basic information they need to do their part. So they're seeing the description of the engineering change request. They're also seeing the product or products involved or the product category if you built your engineering change request record in that manner. And then they're also seeing any file attachments that you have attached to the engineering change request record. And they can download any file attachments and take a look at that information. And then they can move forward with actually approving or rejecting the ECR record. The rejection, as always, requires notes. Once the notes are entered and the button is clicked here to reject ECR, the system will send, again, and stamp the rejection information in the record so that your internal individuals that are involved, one, the person responsible for the request will be notified. Two, the notes will be in there for them to view. They'll make the appropriate changes and they can get the customer back involved if need be. And of course, on the approval side, approval for the engineering change request record is optional. But again, once the button is clicked here to approve the ECR, the system will capture that information and send the notification to the responsible party, and then him or her can move forward with your internal process or what's next for the engineering change request record. We'll go back into the homepage here. We're going to talk about customer surveys. So within your company, you can create and build out customer surveys, and then you can go ahead and assign the customers that you want to complete the surveys, and they can do that electronically through the customer portal. So when we click on the option here to view the surveys, all of the surveys that you've made available to them will be listed here. They do have the option to view any of the closed ones, so they can do all, just so you guys can see that part. And they still can generate printouts for any previous surveys they've completed if they want to or need to. We're going to access the survey up top here. We're going to click on the ability to view and edit. Once the customer accesses the survey, they have the ability to score any of the survey questions that you have made available to them in the survey record. They can also enter any comments that they have for each question you've made available. They can also give some overall comments or notes if they would like to. They also have the ability to attach any external documentation or information if they need to. And all they're doing once they complete the survey is clicking the complete response option here. They can save as they're moving through the process and wanting to enter information, come back to the survey record, but once they have finalized the survey record, all they have to do is click on complete response. Very, very simple. I'll go ahead and put in some scores here for the customer survey. We can save those responses, and when we're ready, go ahead and complete. The system will pop up a message asking you, are you sure? Because once you complete the record, it's locked. The customer cannot go back and modify the survey after it's been completed. Message from the system letting you know that the results have been saved and the record has been closed. Now, the customer does have the ability still to print. So when we're looking at the home page, again, and going into our surveys and we look at that grid, you will be able to see that if I access and filter on my closed survey records, I still have the ability to print the results if need be. Okay? So now to go back a little bit, so we have a good understanding on how we can get customers involved and how customers have the ability to access the customer portal. So remember, we have the three pieces or the three record-keeping options that customers can get involved in. One would be any document approvals, if you have that feature enabled on your QT9 QMS site. The other would be your engineering change request records for approvals. And then this last piece that we just kind of walked through together with the customer surveys, how they can actually complete the surveys, which will be where the results will be sent back over to your company. So we're going to take a look at that now by going into the QT9 QMS main page here. So one of the very first things that would need to happen is within your customer records, so under customers, maintain customers, you want to make sure that your customer is set up with the ability to log into the the customer portal. So when we're looking at our customer that we're using for an example here, we have to enable can login, set a username and password for the customer. Then we can start getting them involved in record keeping options, okay? You guys have probably noticed that there are various record keeping options in the system or modules that allow you to reference customer. However, the three that we've discussed are the ones that actually allow the customers to get involved. And again, that's document request approval, engineering change request approval, and your survey records that you build out for them. And when you do get customers involved with those three record-keeping options through the customer portal, and if you reference a customer in other record-keeping options or modules within QT9 QMS, all of that information and those records go full circle. So when I go into the ECR tab here for this particular customer, I can see all ECR records where this customer has been associated, either to get involved electronically or reference. Okay, and I can do the same thing here when I look at the surveys. I can see all of that information and any other record-keeping options that are not directly action taken related within the customer portal. You can still see where a customer has been referenced in other records, like customer feedback. Again, that's internal, not available through the portal, but again, everything is full circle. So when we're looking at our document request and wanting to get a customer involved, When I look at this document request and I go into my approvers tab here, if I have the global setting enabled, I will see this section over to the right-hand side where I can actually select a customer and assign that customer to that document request. This is what allows the customer to access the document request in the portal. In order to see this feature, I have to go into my global settings. And when I am setting up the workflows for my document control, when I go into the document control tab here, there is a feature that I can enable to allow customers to get involved with document approval. If you do not have this feature turned on and it is something that you need to utilize or would like to utilize, again, please reach out to support@QT9software.com. And if you're just asking a question about how to do it and you're not needing an actual scheduled session for it, the support staff member should be able to answer the question for you. If you would like a one-on-one session regarding any of these features and functions from an implementation and training standpoint, the support staff member can get you linked up with a trainer that can get you on the calendar for some one-on-one assistance with this, okay? If you're looking to get your customers involved with your engineering change request records, when we go into that record keeping option, it's very, very similar. When you access the engineering change record and you access your approvals area here, you have a section here for customer approvals, and you can determine at what point you want your customer to get involved, if at all. At least one internal level of approval has to occur before you can get a customer involved. And again, details and specifics regarding the features and functions to get this all set up, again, can be sent over to support, or you can adjust it with your assigned trainer. And the very last would be getting your customers involved with surveys. So when we go in the survey area here, you internally create the survey record. You build out the questions that you want the customers to answer. When they're completing the survey, you assign the customers that you want to complete the survey. You send an email notification out to them, letting them know the survey is available for them to complete. Then you assign individuals internally that will receive the notification as the results are coming in. Again, any detailed questions or concerns regarding building out and creating surveys or generating reports from surveys and such, reach out to support or your assigned trainer. The next portal that we want to look at will be the Supplier Portal. The Supplier Portal looks very similar to the Customer Portal. The suppliers have to be assigned a login as well, and we'll look at that from a build-out standpoint here in a moment. When the supplier logs into the portal, they actually have 4 different record-keeping options that they can get involved in. The very first one here will be corrective actions. So as you all are generating and creating and processing corrective action records, if you associate a supplier and check that box to assign to supplier, the supplier will receive an email notification that contains a link to access the supplier portal. It also tells them the corrective action record that has been assigned to them. And then all they need is to click on the link, log in with the username and password that you set up for them, and the system will take them to the homepage that we're viewing right now. They click on View Corrective Action. Once they access the grid here, they can go ahead and click to edit any corrective action records that you have assigned to them. When they click on the ability to view and edit that record, they have you access to all of the tabs available within the corrective action that you've assigned to them, but they can only respond to the highlighted tabs here, which is going to be your soup response. This tab is going to contain any of the user-defined, supplier user-defined questions that you have built out for them to answer. And then they can also attach any external documentation or information if they need to. So all they have to do is answer those questions you've built out for them, attach any files if they need to, and they can submit this over, and this information or a notification will be sent over to the responsible party for the corrective action record. Okay, very, very simple. Depending on how you build out your supplier user-defined questions, so some of these here are optional, like question 1 and 2 in section 1, and then these question 2 and 3 are required questions. So if I attempted to submit this corrective action record in the moment, the system is going to flag and say that supplier user-defined number 3 and number 4 are required. So it will not let me officially submit this over until those questions have been answered. Attaching files will be optional. So the supplier doesn't have to attach files, but they must answer those questions that you guys have built out internally and flagged as required. Very, very simple. So right now, if I answer these questions, I can save this and come back and answer more questions later, or I can move forward with submitting this over. So if I click on the option to submit, the responsible party for the corrective action will be notified, and I get a message letting me know that that was successful. And I can go back to my corrective action list, and I can now see, again, reference to all of the open corrective action records that have been assigned to me as a supplier. And I can filter on other statuses as well as open, close, and see some of the other corrective action records that I may have gotten involved in as a supplier. And we're going to go back into the home page real quick. And then we're going to talk about how suppliers can get involved with non-conforming product records. So same idea here. If I click on view non-conforming products, again, I can see all of the ones open for me as a supplier by default. Click on edit here. And it's the same structural layout as the corrective action one. Again, they can view all of the tabs and information that you have populated internally so far, but they can only respond to the non-conforming product supplier user-defined questions that you have built out for them. They can also attach files. You'll notice that in this non-conforming product record, I only have 3 questions, with 1 being required. And in the corrective action record, there were several. So you can have a different set of questions for your corrective action supplier user-defined and for your non-conforming product supplier user-defined, okay? Again, any questions or concerns or details that you need on how to build this out, you do want to reach out to support or your assigned trainer. We will go back into the main page so that you guys can have an idea of how this all starts. But we definitely want to spend the time making sure you have more exposure to the portals and what your customers, suppliers, and users or employees can do within the portal. All right, so we'll go back to lists here. Again, you can filter through with the various statuses tied to your non-conforming product records. Hit the home page here. We can talk about the other 2 record-keeping options that suppliers can get involved in. So one would definitely be you all within your company building out any supplier surveys and wanting the suppliers to respond to those surveys. So when I click on the option here to view the surveys, I'm going to locate the survey that I'm going to be completing as a supplier. And now the structure for this one is a little bit different than the survey that we viewed from a customer standpoint. Up top here, suppliers do have the ability to update the main contact if it's needed and the email address associated with that. All they have to do is make the modification in these fields, then click the button here to update supplier info. The next piece here would be for them to actually answer the questions that you've made available to them. So all they have to do based on how you've built the survey is answer the questions. This is going to be a hybrid question where you're answering one of the options in the drop-down is entering a response here. This will be a closed question, and this will be an open question where they're typing out their response. So we'll pop out some information here. All right, and then we can go ahead and save this information. Message from the system that it has been saved successfully. Over in the comment section here, this is where your supplier can give an overall comment. So we click on add comment. And submit that here. If you have attached any documentation or information that you want your suppliers to view when they are completing the survey, you can do that as part of the build-out process for the survey. And then the suppliers can download and view that information when they're completing the survey record. The suppliers actually have an ability to attach files. So for example, if when you're building out the survey, there's a form that you want the suppliers to complete, you can go ahead and have the form attached here. They can download the form, complete the form, save it locally, and then get it attached here under My File. So when they submit their survey responses over to you, you'll have the ability to download and view what they've attached under My File here. Okay? And then, of course, they have the ability to print out the survey responses if they want to maintain a hard copy of it. There are statuses that are associated with the supplier surveys, and that's here, just so they have an idea on whether or not they've submitted. You guys have an idea of whether or not you've actually gotten the supplier involved, because when a supplier can get involved, it's in actual supplier status here. The moment that we submit, now our status changes and it updates to submitted. And then an email notification goes over from an internal standpoint so that the appropriate individuals can view the responses from the supplier as well as any files that the supplier has attached. Okay, so we're going to go back into the home page area here. We're going to talk about the last piece where suppliers can get involved through the supplier portal, and that's going to be evaluations. So when you guys perform your evaluations of your suppliers, a lot of companies refer to them as scorecards. When you guys complete scorecards, you can make them available to the suppliers through the portal. All they have to do is click on View Evaluations, click on the evaluation made available to them, and they can view the information electronically. So whatever your questions are where you scored them, they can see the questions, they can see any comments you enter for those questions, as well as the possible score and the actual score that you've given them for that. Any general comments, they do get totals. So the highest point value here with their actual score, and then a percentage. And then if you attach any documentation or information when you've completed the evaluation or scorecard for the supplier, they can go ahead and click and download and view that information. Okay? And they have the ability to print a hard copy of the evaluation if they want to. It will reside in their portal as long as you maintain them being able to access the portal. All right, so let's hop over into the main page. And we're going to take a look at how suppliers can get involved through the supplier portal. So under suppliers here, if we go into our maintain suppliers, which is the list of your suppliers, and we're going to search for our supplier that we use as an example. In order to get the supplier involved through the supplier portal electronically, they have to be, again, set up with CAN login. Set with a username and password. They do have to have a main contact and an email address, because when you're getting suppliers involved electronically, email notifications are automatically sent out of the QT9 QMS system. So they know that things have been assigned to them to complete, and they know how to get to that information because the link is provided to them to access the supplier portal. Very similar to the customer record and how the record-keeping options that allow suppliers to get involved electronically, it's full circle. So I can go into the eval responses here and see all the evaluations that have been completed for this supplier. It has been made available to them through the Supplier Portal. I can go into the Survey tab here, see all surveys that have been assigned to the supplier and the statuses of those, and hot link over to the actual electronic record if I need to. The same with non-conforming products and corrective actions. I can see all of those corrective action records that have either been assigned to the supplier or where the supplier has been referenced, but no action is required by them, okay? So again, all full circle, anytime you reference the supplier in those record-keeping options or modules, or if it's actually a module that allows the supplier to get involved electronically, it's all gonna be a part of the supplier's history. We're going to move forward and we're going to talk about the employee portal. Again, the customer portal, supplier portal, and the employee portal are all free to use with your purchase of the QT9 QMS system. We're going to look at the employee portal from the employee standpoint first, and then we'll pop over back into the main page here so we can talk about the setup required to get employees involved through the employee portal. So right here, the employee portal can be the actual URL that's provided to the employees when you send a notification out that they've been assigned to training. Or from the home page, they actually have the ability to click on the employee portal link. So if I go back here real quick, I can see the ability to link over to the employee portal from the main page and just click on that link, and it takes me back to where we were a moment ago. Once the employee logs into the employee portal, they see all of the training is assigned to them, okay, by default. They can change their view to see all records, meaning the training was assigned to them, they've already completed and confirmed the training. They can get into the entire list if they need to. Right here, we're gonna access a training that has been assigned to this employee so that you guys can see the view from an employee standpoint through the portal and also see what they have access to. So by default, the system actually front-facing places the testing piece right in front of the employee. However, they really should be going through and covering all of the pieces or the material that you've made available to them. This is where the instructor comments come into play, where you can give instructions and say, please be sure to access all tabs within the training record to review all provided materials, then complete the test. And then you can also put a note, once you've completed the test, please confirm the training, okay? Anytime you have a test associated with an employee's assigned training, they will be required to complete the test before they can confirm. So if I click on the option to confirm right now, it would typically pop up a message indicating that the training needs to be, or the test needs to be completed. But let's go ahead and complete the other pieces that's available to the employees. So when documents are assigned, all they have to do is click on the blue link here. That's going to allow them to download and view any documents assigned or associated with the training that's assigned to them. They review the document, close it out. They go through each document, reviewing the information provided. If there are any links set up, meaning you have set up where they need to view information on another website, like the example here of Introduction to Implementation, they have to copy this link and place it in a new tab or a new window. So when I come up here, and pop that information, hit enter, and it takes me to wherever that URL is requiring me to go. Okay? And they do have a little bit of information here saying due to security, links are not active from the employee portal. They actually have to copy it out of this form and manually open it in a new tab or the appropriate program. So when speaking of other programs, if you do have your employees completing courses electronically through an LMS system, if you are directing them to a YouTube video or some other information in another application, you can do something similar to the examples here. Implementation course or video, and then give a path on where they need to go to access that course or that video or material or information that resides in another software application or system. And again, if you want to explain what this path means and what you want them to do, you can include that in your instructor comments when you're building out the training before you make it available to them. Okay? Related files here allows the employee to download and view any information you provide to them that's external from your control documents. So the documents tab here is going to be your control documents. All of those documents that you're revision controlling in QT9 QMS. Related files is going to be any external documentation information, a PowerPoint presentation, any small videos that's under 150 megabytes that you want your employees to view and cover as part of this training. All you have to do is click on the link, go ahead and open up the information you've provided them with, review that information, and now that information is a part of the materials that they've covered completing this training. Okay. And then they're completing any tests associated with the employee training. For those of you that do not have the training module set up and implemented, once you get to that point, you can actually assign and associate one or more training tests to a training record that you assign to your employees, and they have to complete all of those tests through that training record that you've assigned to them before they can confirm. So if I click on the option here to take tests, the system will allow me to get started. Notice that the employees do have an ability to find out what they need as a minimum passing score from what you've built out for the training test, as well as how many times they can attempt to take the test. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Take Test here, and I'm going to see all of the questions that were built out, the point value for those questions, as well as my ability to enter comments for any questions that were built internally by my trainer or manager or supervisor, where I can enter comments for some of the questions. Now, the system is automatically going to grade whether or not the employee selects the appropriate or correct answer for the question. The comment section does not get graded, okay? If you need any recommendations or suggestions about building tests and capturing information from a training standpoint beyond this moment, again, reach out to support@QT9software.com or contact your assigned trainer, and they can give you some suggestions and recommendations on how to capture some information that you may need to for your training. So we're going to go ahead and complete this test and see how successful we are. I'm not going to enter a comment here. I can save, go to lunch, come back, and complete the test later just by clicking on Open Test here. Answer my questions, change my questions. When I'm ready to actually have the system grade, I click on complete test here. I get a warning from the system letting me know that the moment that I click OK, I can no longer change the answers to these questions because the system is going to grade it right away. So it captures saying that it was successful, and it's already graded the test. When I look at it, I already see the available possible points can be scored, my actual score, my percentage, and whether I passed or failed. And I can go in here, view test, and I can see what I got wrong. Because I did not hit the minimum passing score, I do have the ability to take the test again. So I can take the test again. Hopefully we're successful this time. We will see what happens. This time we're going to immediately complete. The system scores, and this time I got 15 out of 15, 100%, I passed. Now the employees can give comments regarding the overall training that they've completed. And now they can go ahead and confirm their training. This is extremely important because sometimes the question comes up, how do we know the employees viewed the documents that we assign from our control document list? How do we know they viewed any external documentation, content, or information that we tied to related files or the links that we provided? Well, this is you all holding them accountable for them confirming and completing this training, because this message is saying that they have received, read, and understand all of the associated information, associated documents, and applicable files. So the moment they check this box and enter their password and confirm, that is them saying that they've done everything that you've asked them to do in completing this training. The system marks the training as completed. Email notification goes over to the individuals managing the training, and those individuals will pop into the training record that they've set up for the employee, review the test results, and then review any comments provided by the employee, and then perform their evaluation. Those for that employee. That is pretty straightforward. When it comes to the employee portal, it's just about training and nothing else. So we'll pop over into the main page really quick to see how you can get employees involved in completing training electronically. So your training administrators or training users can come into the system, build out training records. And when they're building out the training records, they associate all of the material that they want to make available to the employees. So your assigned users are going to be the individuals managing the training. Your employees are the individuals completing the training. And you can see here, we just completed as an employee through the employee portal and confirmed the training for Layla here. The system captures that information, marks it off as confirmed, and it sets the confirmed date. And I can view Layla's comments here, okay? So everything goes full circle. The internal individuals, whether it's supervisor, employee, trainer, or all of the above human resources, they build the training, they associate the material they want to with the control documents, tests, hyperlinks, related files. They specify the departments completing the training. If you guys have built out any skill sets and you want to include skill sets in this training that's being completed, you can get those built out and associate it with the training record. So that is also something that's covered. So the moment that you perform the evaluation for this employee, you're saying that this employee is competent and can handle any skills or any role or duty based off of the materials that they've covered within this training. If you have questions or concerns about implementing the training module, or if you need training on how to get employees involved with completing training, or if you need to understand any details when it comes to building out skill sets and job titles and such, definitely, again, reach out to our support team or your assigned trainer, and then you can get the information that you need or get scheduled for a session so that you can get the training module up and running. This is a great module to use within your company. It makes it very, very easy for you all to pull information when you get audited and be able to prove competency for your employees. So our very last module, because we're hitting the end of the hour, is going to be the document portal, right? So remember, we talked about the document portal. Out of all 4 portals, the document portal is the only one that requires you to do an additional purchase as an add-on. The document portal is a separate group of licenses. So when you purchase your QT9 QMS system, that is one set of licenses for users to log into the main page. So if we go and log out of here so we can talk about this and see it visually. So when you purchase the QT9 QMS system, you have purchased a certain set of licenses here. This means that whatever your maximum is, that's how many people can log into the system as a user. If you decide to purchase the document portal, it will be an added link on your main page here that can be accessed by clicking on the link, and it's a separate set of licenses based off of what you purchased for just your document portal licenses, okay? Again, if you do have the document portal, This allows customers, suppliers, and your users to access any documents that you've made available to them. I'm going to log in as a user first so you guys can see what's available. User logs in. And they're only seeing the documents that have been made available to them based off of their access to the document. And they can filter and search through the documents here. So for example, I can still key in characters and do a contain to quickly locate the documents that I need. If I come in here and I say I want to see all documents with those 3 characters, I do a contain. Now my list is a little bit smaller, or a lot bit smaller, and I'm only viewing and filtering through these documents. So if I come over here and I click on implementation training, I can download and view that document. Me accessing the document portal to view and search for documents is not affecting the licenses that I have for my main page. Okay. Gonna log out of here as a user. Then we're gonna log in as a customer and supplier, and then I'll quickly show you guys how you can assign specific documents to your customers and suppliers. Also, notice the note over here. If I was viewing this document portal, somebody else right now, Layla is logged in as a user, I can see that. And we're gonna come over here and log in as a customer, and you'll be able to see how you can tell when a customer is logged in. So once I log in as a customer, these are the only 2 documents made available to this customer, Q Inc. And they can do the same thing. So they can click on the document, download and view it from here, if they have access to that. If I'm looking at the document portal, now I can see Q Inc. logged in, and it has this *C indicating it's a customer, not a user now. Layla's no longer logged in. And the same thing happens when we log in as a supplier. So if I come back over here, log out as a customer, log in as a supplier, my login list is going to change. And now this supplier, Q Consultants, only has access to this one document. And when I go to view here, now I see Q Consultants logged in as a supplier. And then if all 3 were logged in, I would see the *C, and then I would just see Layla logged in as a regular user and not a supplier or customer. Real quick, let's pop over into the main page so you guys can see how you're going to assign documents to your customers and suppliers. So going back into the customer record, so we're going to access Q Inc. here. The very first tab that's available in the customer record is the Documents tab. This is where you go to assign the documents you want the customers to view in the document portal. All you do is click on Add Documents. All of your current documents that are active will be listed here, and you can assign the ones you want the customer to see. And the same thing with suppliers. If I go into Maintain Suppliers, access the supplier record, the very first tab is going to be Documents. And we'll go into Q Consultants here. Again, that one document we saw that was available to the supplier is what's assigned to the supplier record. And I can do the same thing here. Click on Add Documents, have access to the entire current documents list, and assign additional documents that I want the supplier to view if needed. Okay. Allowing your users to have access to documents, that is all based off of your user account setup. If you guys have any specific questions and concerns regarding anything we've covered today, again, please feel free to reach out to support@QT9software.com or reach directly out to your assigned implementation specialist if you're still in the initial implementation process. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention today. Again, we're very, very excited to present this information to you. If you do have any questions or concerns, go ahead and send that information over to our staff members. We have a couple minutes left before we'll disconnect from the webinar. And again, any questions that have not been answered will be answered after the session has been completed. Thank you guys again so much and have a great rest of your day.